And gentlemen, welcome back to another video on the channel. As you can see, we have another tier list video for you guys today. But contrary to what I have been doing in the past and talking about current players, I'm going to be talking about NFL legends. I'm going to be ranking them on this tier list right here. We have the best ever at their position. I'm putting one player per position up there. That's who I think the undisputed GOAT is at their position. Players that changed the game, players that were really, really great, studs, and then maybe some guys that are a little bit slightly overrated. As you are probably seeing, there is no dog shit category. We're talking about NFL legends. None of these guys are dog shit. But as per usual, let me know what you think of my rankings in the comments down below. I'm very excited to hear your thoughts and opinions on these guys. Let's go ahead and get right into it. Adrian Peterson. I'm going to put him in stud. He was a stud for a while. You know, he'd missed some time. I know he was out basically a whole year with that ACL injury. But Adrian Peterson was awesome. Won an MVP. That's some hardware that no people have. I'm not going to try to go. I'm not going to try to go super quick through this, but I'm going to try to not waste much time. Anthony Munoz. I am of the belief, as a Seahawks fan, that Anthony Munoz is the greatest left tackle of all time. I know you could bring up Jonathan Ogden. You could bring up Walter Jones. I personally think Anthony Munoz is the greatest left tackle of all time. Because of that, he goes into the best ever at their position. Right here, Walter Payton. I am of the opinion that Walter Payton is the best running back in NFL history. Now, the reason I say this is because I think Walter Payton was the best at every single category. He could catch the ball. He could damn sure run the ball. He set the NFL record for rushing yards while he was still playing. He was a great receiver. He was a great blocker. He could throw the fucking ball. I mean, they could probably have put him at defense, and he would have been great. But although those Bears defenses back then were pretty stacked, he was a great kick returner, punt returner. Walter Payton could do literally everything. He has one of the greatest running styles ever, and the nickname Sweetness is synonymous with him for a good reason. Marshall Faulk right here, he was really great. People forget Marshall Faulk was like if Christian McCaffrey was darker and on steroids. I mean, that's really what Marshall Faulk was back in the day. Won an MVP with the Rams, participated in that, great 3, 4, 5 year run of the greatest show on turf with the Rams, and he was legit. He was legit. He's really, really great. I won't say that he totally changed the game because players before him were dominant receivers as well, most namely guys like Roger Craig. But Marshall Faulk was a really, really great player in his own right. Mel Blount. Mel Blount quite literally changed the game. They had to make new rules based on the way that he was defending receivers. The whole rule that you can only touch receivers within the first 5 yards of their route is because of Mel Blount. He used to just beat the shit out of motherfuckers every single play. I mean, dudes could never get off the ball. That rule also is what helped push the passing game into the heights that it is today because it was kind of stagnant for a while. That rule opened it up more for quarterbacks and receivers to actually be able to play football. And Mel Blount changed the game. You know, he's also a very, very dominant corner. He was feared by many people. I don't think many people are going to hate on me for putting him in changing the game. Mike Singletary is really great. He's the only Bears franchise player with double-digit Pro Bowl nods. He's got 10. He won Defensive Player of the Year, I think twice, but definitely at least once in 1988. And he was part of that 1985 Chicago Bears defense. He was the leader of that defense, in fact, one of, if not the single greatest defenses of all time. I don't necessarily think of Mike Singletary as one of the absolute best linebackers ever, but he is still really, really good, and I think that his contributions to the Bears will never be forgotten. Randy Moss. I do think Randy Moss changed the game. Here's why. I think that we have not before or since seen a receiver that has his combination of size, speed, athleticism, hands, everything. Randy Moss was the total package. And I think receivers now are judged on the Randy Moss scale. You know, are they a great athlete? You know, are they tall like Randy Moss? Do they have his combination of size, speed? The modern day equivalent to Randy Moss, and this is in no way me saying that he is Randy Moss. So calm down. But it's guys like DK Metcalf, right? Freaks of nature, bigger, stronger, faster. You know, everything like that. Randy Moss changed the game, set the single season record for receiving touchdowns in a season when he was with New England in 2007. Just a great, great wide receiver. Not the best ever, but he definitely changed the game, and he definitely made you tune in every single Sunday that he was playing. Tom Brady, don't need to spend much time saying that he's the greatest ever, best ever, most Super Bowls, yada, yada, yada. I'm not going to suck him off more than he already gets sucked off. Brett Favre, he definitely changed the game. He was one of the first real, true, to the bone gunslingers, and I say to the bone in both a positive and negative way because at certain points, it was he was making the greatest throw you've ever seen, and then he was throwing just absolute back-breaking interceptions, most notably in the 2009 NFC Championship game. But he most definitely changed the game. He most definitely, made an impact. If you want to say that at the very least he changed the game because of the whole retirement stuff, now whenever a prominent player retires, are they retired? Are they coming back out of retirement? Da 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 da. That was kind of the whole Brett Favre thing for a couple years there, but Brett Favre changed the game 100%. Johnny Unitas, um, he was really great. You have to understand, I think, the era that he played in. Quarterbacks weren't like what they are today, and he really, him and Raymond Berry really like revolutionized that. I think there was like one of the first modern revolutions of the passing game that I think really took the NFL by storm. Brian Urlacher's a stud. I don't think he's as good as Mike Singletary. Mike Singletary has 2 more Pro Bowls, won a Super Bowl, all that type of stuff. But Brian Urlacher is a damn good player. He's just one of the greatest linebackers of his era. I don't know that he's anything special in comparison to this group, but he's still a stud nonetheless. John Elway. John Elway is really great. I went to a bunch of Super Bowls. I know that he only won 2, but he did win the 2 at the end of his career. But he was a cornerstone for the Broncos, #1 overall pick, pretty much one of the most talented quarterbacks of all time, I think we could all say. And he was really, really great. Not so much in that upper echelon of quarterbacks like some other guys in history, but definitely up there. Definitely awesome. Derek Brooks, I'm going to put in really great as well. Won that Super Bowl with the Buccaneers, was taken in that great draft by the Bucs when they took Derek Brooks and Warren Sapp, which I believe Warren Sapp should be on here at some point. I'm not totally sure, though. But great linebacker, great teammate, great guy. Not much else to say. Terrell Owens, man, Terrell Owens. I'm tempted to put him in change the game because of his lavishness and his diva energy, but for right now, I'm just gonna put him in really great. No, no, he deserves to be in change the game. Change. Here's why. I'll give him a couple reasons. A, his stats and accolades are up there with the best. B, I do think that his celebratory antics and his off the field, let's call it attention seeking, is something that we've seen a rise in the NFL since his departure. Since he was trailblazing. Was he the first guy to do it? No, but I think playing such an important position, being such a high profile player, playing for a team especially like the Cowboys, it's big stuff. And Terrell Owens is definitely a guy that changed the game. Junior Seau, I believe this is Junior Seau. I'm going to put him in stud. He's not as good as Brian Urlacher or Adrian Peterson. Obviously, Junior Seau, rest in peace. He's a great linebacker, played for the Chargers and Patriots, and was awesome. Ed Reed. Ed Reed changed the game. One of the best ball hawking safeties of all time. I really think that Ed Reed was he was a guy in that Ravens defense that you could just count on every single year. He was going to make big plays. I think he was also one of the best guys in NFL history in terms of returning interceptions. I mean, he had some dazzling returns. You remember the one against the Eagles that he took damn near 110 yards. I mean, it was awesome. Ed Reed is one of the best safeties in NFL history. Now going on to Jerry Rice. Jerry Rice is the best receiver in NFL history. There's really no debate about that, I don't think. Look at his longevity. Look at all the records he has. Look at all the Super Bowls he's won. Jerry Rice is that guy, and nobody's going to argue it. Seahawks legend, by the way. Steve Young. Steve Young is really great. I'm going to put him a tick below John Elway. He did win 1 Super Bowl, which is great, and he did win MVP, obviously. Steve Young, for part of his career, just kind of got caught behind Joe Montana. And I think, that was good for him, actually. I really do think that time learning under Joe Montana helped his career. But, he doesn't have as many counting stats or as many of the extreme accolades as some of the quarterbacks ahead of him. So for that reason, I do have to put him in really great, although he was a phenomenal quarterback. Ray Lewis. Ooh, I'm tempted to put Ray Lewis and change the game, and I'm going to do that. Him and Ed Reed, again, they were just such a great duo for so many years. He was just a tackle machine. I mean, just an absolute tackle machine. And he was on that Ravens defense that won the Super Bowl in 2000. One of the best defenses of all time. You really have the Steel Curtain Steelers, the 1985 Bears. You got the 2000 Ravens, and you could maybe throw in like the Legion of Boom Seahawks. Those are like the 4 or 5 best defenses in NFL history, and Ray Lewis was a captain of one of them. Emmitt Smith, I do think Emmitt Smith is a bit overrated. Now, Emmitt Smith is still a great player, yes, but the reason that he is the NFL's all-time leading rusher is, in my opinion, partially due to the fact that the Cowboys team was so stacked. Their offensive line was phenomenal. Their quarterback was great. Their receivers, most notably Michael Irvin, phenomenal. So it kind of made life easy for Emmitt Smith. Not easy, but it made it a lot easier. And nobody with working brain cells is going to tell you that Emmitt Smith is the NFL's best running back of all time. Whereas Walter Payton at number 2, you can make an argument for. You can make an argument for Barry Sanders. You can make an argument for Jim Brown. Those are kind of the other guys that are in that top 5 rushing yards of all time. So to me, Emmitt Smith is a bit overrated. Still a great player, everything like that, but a bit overrated. Deacon Jones. Deacon Jones definitely changed the game. He was the reason that they started counting sacks, as stats. They started in 1982 just because he was doing it so much. So his numbers are inconclusive. They're incomplete, rather. So we don't really know how dominant he truly was from a statistical standpoint. But throw on the tape, throw on some Deacon Jones highlights, and you'll see that he was just destroying. He was destroying everybody he was playing against. Rob Gronkowski, at this current moment, Rob Gronkowski is the greatest tight end of all time. I do think that Travis Kelce will catch him eventually, but if Travis Kelce retired tonight, I would still give it to Rob Gronkowski. He's got more Super Bowls. He's got more prolonged success. I do think injuries hampered him a little bit to where it hasn't with Travis Kelce yet, but I do think Rob Gronkowski is the best. Mean Joe Green. I might have to put Mean Joe Green as the best defensive tackle of all time, although I might have to, I'll bite my tongue on that just a little bit. For right now, I'll put him in Change the Game. I'll put him like right next to T.O. right there. Like I said, the Steel Curtain defense, dominant. Steelers won 4 Super Bowls in the 1970s. They had Hall of Famers literally all over the field. But Mean Joe Green was the anchor to that defense. He was the guy in the middle. He was the tough SOB. Nobody was getting past him. And he belongs on this list, most notably. Tony Gonzalez. Tony Gonzalez is a guy, again, you could really put him by Gronk and make a good argument. I do think that he was really, really great. I'm gonna put him by Steve Young. Tony Gonzalez played for a lot of years, caught a lot of passes, scored a lot of touchdowns, has an excellent career broadcasting at Fox now. Good for him. Tony Gonzalez, he's just a really, really good Hall of Fame player. I don't think as athletically dominant as a guy like Rob Gronkowski, but just did his job year in and year out. Didn't play for a lot of great teams, unfortunately, so I wish I could have seen him go farther in the playoffs, but Tony Gonzalez was a stud. He really was. Dan Marino, this is one of the guys I'm talking about when I say change the game. Dan Marino, in his second season, won MVP, threw for 48 touchdowns. Now, 48 touchdowns is good in the year 2023. In 1984, 48 touchdowns is fucking unreal. That was insane. It's like throwing 60 touchdowns right now. He absolutely skyrocketed. He did shit that nobody thought was possible back then. And it sucks for Dan Marino that he was never able to go to another Super Bowl after that year, never able to win one throughout his whole career, had limited playoff success. But look at his numbers. Look at the way he was doing shit. It's just, he changed the game. Dan Marino is going to be remembered for all eternity for what he did in the NFL. Reggie White, I'm going to go ahead and put Reggie White as the greatest edge rusher of all time. I know Bruce Matthews has more sacks, but if you had to put a gun to my head and say which player would you least like to block from the edge rusher position, I'd tell you Reggie White. Reggie White, he got that dip and rip move. He's fast off the edge, played for the Packers, played for the Eagles, won a Super Bowl with Green Bay. I think he's the greatest edge rusher of all time, in my opinion. Barry Sanders, again, Barry Sanders changed the game. But nobody in the history of the NFL has combined his elusiveness, his shiftiness, his athleticism. Barry Sanders, it was so much fun to watch Barry Sanders. It was like watching a jackrabbit in cleats. I mean, he was just phenomenal. Loved to watch Barry Sanders. I would have, rather, if I was alive. I love watching his highlights on YouTube, and that's how we learn. But good for Barry Sanders. Another guy that's really great, I'm going to go to Earl Campbell. Earl Campbell played back then when it was just, tough SOBs playing in the NFL. I mean, there's videos of him like getting his jersey ripped off, trucking dudes. I mean, his running style was just vicious. He was fantastic. Not to the caliber, I think, of some of the elite running backs like the Walter Paytons, the Barry Sanders, the Jim Browns, but a great running back nonetheless, and I really don't see any argument against that. I'm going to go ahead and go quick here with my next two. Outside linebacker Lawrence Taylor and cornerback Deion Sanders. They're both the best in the history of the NFL. If you want to debate that, I would challenge you to watch football. If you think either different for those two, great, best to ever do it. And I wish I could have watched him play. Charles Woodson is he is really great. I was gonna say change the game, but Charles Woodson he had a really long shelf life for a defensive back. I mean, like really long, and that's not common, especially not in today's NFL. He was just a phenomenal athlete. I mean, at Michigan, he won the Heisman Trophy primarily as a defensive player. That's really hard to do in college, especially at a big ticket program like Michigan. I will say, when he stripped the ball out of Tom Brady's hand in the tuck rule, it was a fumble. I'm going to go ahead and make my opinion on that known. But he is a great player, and he's a deserving Hall of Famer. Drew Brees. Drew Brees is a stud. I'm not going to say that he's really great. Doesn't have the postseason accolades that some of the other guys do. He did win a Super Bowl with New Orleans, which is great. Never won an MVP. Put up a lot of yards. Put up a lot of great statistical stat stuffing seasons. Try saying that 5 times fast. But to me, he was never one of the top 2 or 3 best quarterbacks for the last half of his career. And because of that, I'm going to put him in stud. Eric Dickerson. I'm going to say he changed the game. I mean, he really did. You know what I'm saying? Like his second year, he ran for, I think, an NFL record, ran for over 2,000 yards, ran, I think, 1,800 for his rookie year. Great player. One way that he changed the game that I think some people need to realize is that he really fought for more money. And we've seen this fight continue in today's age for running backs, but he was very hell-bent on getting the money that he deserved. Went on, played for the Colts after this. He's a great player. Larry Fitzgerald, again, is another stud. Larry Fitz did it for a long time. Never had any off-the-field stuff. Great hands. Was good for, very productive seasons every year. Problem for Larry Fitzgerald, and this isn't necessarily his fault, didn't play with a lot of great quarterbacks in his years, and so his playoff success is limited. He did absolutely go crazy in the Super Bowl that he played. They didn't win, unfortunately. Never really got close other than the one year that Arizona made the NFC Championship game with Carson Palmer, but they got their absolute backs bended over against Carolina. They were the best team in the NFL that year. And, Larry Fitz, man, I just wish I could have seen him with a better quarterback. I really do. Jim Brown. Hard not to say that Jim Brown didn't change the game. Arguably the greatest player of all time. People are going to get mad that I put Walter Payton ahead of him, but I think Jim Brown is one of the true icons of the game. He is one of the true legends of the game. And he set a whole bunch of records when he retired, won MVPs, all of that. He did everything you could, and may he rest in peace. Bruce Matthews. Bruce Matthews was also really, really great. He has the career sack total record. Played for the Bills, went to a bunch of Super Bowls, did a bunch of things great. I would probably say he's the second best edge rusher of all time outside of Reggie White. It's really a competition between those two, but I would give Reggie White the slight edge because I think he's more of an athletic freak. Going to Fran Tarkenton he actually did change the game a lot. He was one of the first pure scrambling quarterbacks. He was one of the first improvisational quarterbacks that we see is so common today. And he was really ahead of his time for that. He was really ahead of his time, and I don't think his contributions are felt enough by the NFL world today. Aaron Rodgers. I hate this dude. Anyway, we're going to put Aaron Rodgers behind Steve Young. He's great. He's good. Whatever. I don't care. I'm not going to lie. I can't see who that is. It's not a great picture, and maybe I'm just blind. I believe this is LaDainian Tomlinson right here. LaDainian Tomlinson, he is a stud. I'm going to put him behind Adrian Peterson. I'm going to sneak Adrian Peterson up there. LaDainian Tomlinson, again, at his peak, is probably the best running back ever. Scored the most touchdowns in a single season, won MVP. But he didn't do it for that long, and he really didn't have as much prolonged success as other guys like Adrian Peterson, Walter Payton. So I'm gonna hold off calling him the greatest, but he is still obviously a really, really good player. This player right here, I'm assuming it's Autogram. Shout out to my boy TTB Ravens Media, the biggest Autogram fan in the world. Autogram changed the game. I mean, come on now, 10 championships, 10 championship appearances, 7 wins. Can't beat it. He's great. Love Autogram. Warren Moon, he changed the game as well. I mean, I know we have a lot of guys that changed the game in this category, but these are the NFL legends we're talking about. Warren Moon, point blank period, made it a possibility in many people's minds that black quarterbacks could succeed in the NFL. He is not the only great black quarterback, but I think he was one of the first pioneers, and he was the one that got the most national attention to really try to help the stigma around black quarterbacks in the NFL. I mean, he proved they could do it, and they could do it at an elite level. And thank goodness now in today's game we have a plethora of black quarterbacks, especially in comparison to what it was in the past. But his contributions are fantastic for the entire game. All right, my boy right here. I see. I have I have trouble like putting all the Steelers players in like change the game. Cause I got Mel Blount and Joe Green. I'm gonna put him in really great. I'm gonna put him behind I'll put him behind Mike Singletary. Um, yeah, I mean just a tough at. You can see he's missing a tooth right here. Man, the middle of the field for the Steelers for all those years, and just great, just great. Ronnie Lott, I say Ronnie Lott's the greatest safety of all time. That might be a head ass take. I know. But I just think of the way that he was able to. He covered like a corner. I mean, a lot of people don't know this. He played corner to start his career, right? He was all pro there, so he can cover. He can hit. He was tough. I think he was very, very smart. A lot of wins, a lot of Super Bowls with the 49ers. I would probably put him as the greatest safety of all time. Um, Troy Polamalu is a guy that's really great. He is really, really, really good. In contention, I'd say he's probably the third best safety of all time, if I'm being real with you. Um, just a great player, great for the game. His aura, his energy is unmatched. I just love him so much. Calvin Johnson, again, another really, really great player. His prime wasn't as long as some of these other guys, but nobody was more dominant at their peak than Calvin Johnson. In a 16-game regular season, he still holds the single-season record for receiving yards, and the dude was just fucking unguardable, right? I talked about it with Randy Moss. Calvin wasn't that fast, but he was just such a freak athlete. He was so big. He was so strong. He jumped so high. It was just not fair guarding him. It really was not. Next, we got Joe Montana. Obviously, Joe Montana is really, really great. I'm going to put it at the top of this category. 4 Super Bowls. If Tom Brady never existed, he'd be the undisputed greatest quarterback of all time. I don't need to talk more about Joe Montana. I think you guys get the picture. He's awesome. He's great. We're going to go ahead and talk about Rod Woodson. Rod Woodson is a stud as well. Played for a lot of years in the NFL. Played for the Steelers, played for the Ravens. I believe he played for no, I'm not the Cowboys. I'm thinking of Darren Woodson. A lot of interceptions. Very, very productive in his career. He belongs on this list with all these other guys. And, he's right up there. Peyton Manning, again, another really, really great player. Won 2 Super Bowls. I believe he's the only starting quarterback to win a Super Bowl with 2 different teams. Won a bunch of MVPs. Still holds the single-season record for touchdown passes and passing yards in a single season. It's the sheriff. It's Peyton Manning. He did it for 20 years. He recovered from a neck surgery, and I don't know what else you want me to say. And then Chuck Bednarik, I believe, is this guy right here. We're gonna put him in the stud category. Again, I can't see who that is. It's a bad picture, and I don't have my glasses on. But this is my tier list ranking for the NFL legends on this tier list. Let me know what your guys' thoughts are down below. I hope to see you guys in the next video. Make sure to subscribe if you enjoyed, and I will make sure to eat your veggies. Don't do drugs. Goodbye.